Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Ossining Reappraisal Project 2020 discussion. My name is Dana Levenberg. I'm the supervisor of the Town of Ossining, and I'm here with our town assessor, Fernando Gonzalez.
Hello.
We're here tonight to talk about the reappraisal process for 2020 and what that involves for property owners. In 2016, we went through a reappraisal or reassessment process for all of the properties in the town of Ossining. And the town of Ossining includes all of the village of Ossining, most of the village of Briarcliff, about 91%, and all of the unincorporated parts of Ossining. So that's 10,200 parcels in all of the town of Ossining. We went through the process in order to bring the values, the assessed values, up to market value so that they would be at 100% of value, so that we could have a transparent and accurate roll. And we did that effectively. There was a process that is similar but different to the one that we are going to be going through now, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the process is going to look like for this round. And we did that, it was about 5 years ago that we went through this process, and we're going to be doing it every 5 years, hopefully, for many years to come, so that we can maintain that 100% value. The last time we did it, we went out to bid as part of a consortium of communities, including Town of Greenberg, Town of North Salem, and Ossining, and there were other communities that also were part of the bidding process. Tyler Technologies won the bid to be the reassessment company, and they have won our local bid this time round again, so it will be somebody familiar with our community as well as with the process that we went through last time, and we have looked for ways that we can improve. So, Fernando, could you talk to us a little bit about how the process is going to go this time, a little bit about the timeline, and what people can expect to receive in the mail and in other ways?
Yes, the first time around, the 2016 reassessment project started in 2014, and we inspected every property, or all 10,200, out of which the majority, about 60%, were also interior inspections. This time around, the process is not going to be as invasive, since we have good, accurate data on most property. We need to review the data on every property and assign a new estimate of value for the 2020 roll. So this time around, we are only inspecting properties where we see discrepancies and where we find that we have inconsistencies with the information we have and the information that we find in other public records, such as sales, building department records, etc.
So approximately how many properties do you anticipate will need to be inspected?
Immediately, the first group of properties that are going to be inspected is approximately 310 parcels, and the reason for that, we took the existing footprints that we have on record of all of the properties in the town of Ossining and compare it to the photography that the county mapping service performed this last year.
I see.
So we are able to take the footprints of buildings throughout the town and compare it to the footprints that we have on record. The system comes up with, I think it's a 10% variable or errors, and we have flagged approximately 310 properties, and those will be the first one to be inspected.
Okay.
And in addition to that, as we go through the process, anywhere we see that there are discrepancies that can only be resolved with an actual physical inspection, then we will go out there, the Tyler data collectors will go out there and do the inspection, knock on the door, and ask permission from the owners. Of course, as is the right of every owner, you have the right to refuse an inspection.
Okay.
In that case, as we did in 2016, we'll do our best to get the accurate information so that we have accurate values.
Before you get into the next part, can you just tell me, you said that we were talking about accuracy and we were talking about 100% value. So for the last few years, we've maintained the roll at 100% value. How do you know that we have? What kind of thing validates that information?
Every year, of course, every year, every municipality, whether they're at 100% or at a uniform percentage of value, that uniform percentage or actual value like we have is reviewed by the state. The State Office of Real Property Tax Services reviews sales, and in the case of municipalities that have a percentage of value, they come up with that percentage.
So
In our case, as
Yeah.
we do every year, and we did in 2016, the whole process, the whole reassessment process is done in conjunction with the state, and they will review the data and the values that we come up with in order to give us the determination of whether we are at 100% or at a percentage of value.
So I just got my tax bill in the mail, and it says on it, the assessor estimated full market value of this property at whatever hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it used to say tens of thousands of dollars. Here it says the uniform percentage value to establish assessment was 100%. It used to say 5.65%, I think,
5.65,
right?
yes.
So now, when you look at that, you know what the value of your property actually is. And that's something that we didn't have before we went through the process, because for 40 years, the town of Ossining had not done a townwide reassessment. So that was one of the motivating factors for us initially to get up to 100% value. And because we know that having accurate appraisals and accurate assessments makes it much easier for people who are looking to sell their property or buy a property to actually know what they're going to be paying in taxes, what their property is valued at, and maybe what they should even be paying for that property.
Correct. Prior to the 100% on the 2015 roll, our roll was reflected at a uniform percentage of value of 5.65%. So you will see your tax bill with an estimate with the amount of approximately, let's say, $14,000. And in order to get an estimate of what the full market value was, you would have to divide it by 0.0565 to get an idea of what it would be. Of course, being at 100% of market value, it's much easier for everybody to understand, not only understand their value, but also understand everybody else's value. Most residents are keenly aware of what the value of their property is, especially if they bought recently, and our role, of course, is reflected at 100% of value, and every year we have done adjustments in order to maintain the 100%.
So we didn't do those re-inspections for the last couple of years, but you were still able to maintain the roll by doing what procedure?
So during the first reappraisal in 2016, we did a complete inspection of the property and a reappraisal of every property to come up with a model in order to derive values for every property. During the years of 2017, 18, and 19, we maintained those values based on ratio analysis, which is basically looking at the sales by neighborhood and comparing those sales to the assessment, and then making adjustment to the assessed value in order to maintain those assessments at 100%. This methodology, of course, is also accepted as best practice, and it's every year, again, this is done under the review of the state, and they have to agree and certify that we are at 100% after we make those adjustments to those neighborhoods. So this year, we are doing a reappraisal, meaning we are reviewing every property, updating the information where we have errors, or omissions, or additions, and we're going to come up with a new estimate of value for every property. This will be done with the use of a computer-aided mass appraisal technology, where we will develop a model that will basically put a value, an accurate value on approximately 90 to 95% of the residential properties. There will be some outliers that will require manual handling or specific handling because there are no comparable sales that would fit that category, which is normal. As you know, we have a very large variation of different styles and qualities of housing. So this year,
Right.
again, we will be reappraising every property, and every property is going to get a new determination of value.
Okay, so we'll talk in a little bit about commercial values
Yes.
and commercial properties, but let's go a little bit more into now the process and the timeline for those people who are going to require that somebody comes into, a data collector comes to their property, their home.
So those initial 310 property owners that we have determined that we have a discrepancy and we need to do a physical inspection will be the first one getting this brochure. This brochure explains what we're doing and the timing, the schedule, and
So that coming to them in their mailbox.
In the
This is the one that,
mailbox.
the first round, about 300 and some odd
about
properties, right?
310 property.
310 properties.
And what getting this brochure means that someone will be knocking on their door within the next 1 to 3 weeks in order to review the discrepancy that we have found.
So how will somebody know that that person who comes to their door is legit?
These individuals, in fact, they were here before, are Tyler data collectors. They will be wearing a Tyler tag, ID tag. Their cars will be identified with a placard like this on the dashboard.
The yellow
The
vest.
police departments will be notified that they
Yellow
are out
vest.
there. And they wear this very visible vest with the Tyler Technologies. I'm sure many residents remember back in 14 through 16 when this was happening.
Okay. So 3 different ways, something in the dashboard of their car, their ID card, which also has the Town of Ossining logo on it, as well as the Tyler Technologies logo on the back of the yellow vest.
Yes.
And we will alert our friendly Ossining police departments to
Ossining
let them know.
And Briarcliff.
And Briarcliff as well. Fantastic. And what else, so they're going to receive this mailer, and then what happens? And somebody might come to their house, and they can either say, yes, I'll let you in, or no, I won't. If you don't let somebody in, it makes it harder for us to determine if the appraisal, if the data is accurate.
Yes.
If you do let them in, it makes it much easier for us. They're going to go in there and, what are they going to look for?
Well, for example, if there is a new deck that is there.
Right.
We would like to measure it, make sure we have the correct size. If there are 3 bathrooms instead of 2. So this is we call it the inventory data on every property, and that is the necessary information in order to produce an accurate value. Not only is it necessary to produce an accurate value, but this is something that is better if it's accurate and updated, because every time you do a real estate transaction with your property, whether it's a sale or a refinance, this information has to be reconciled by the appraiser, by the real estate agent, and by the title companies. So if we are not able to physically get that information, then we will do our best to measure utilizing aerial photography, and use other methods of information such as building department records or sales records, etc., in order to try and compile the correct information.
And how, is this a few hours that they are at your
Oh,
house?
no. It's similar to an appraisal inspection for a sale or a purchase,
Okay.
15 to 20 minutes.
Okay,
In most cases, it will be less than that because they're only verifying a specific a few specific points of information. We already have most of the data.
Okay.
Okay.
So we already know not every property is going to be inspected. What happens if somebody's not home when the data collector gets there?
They will leave
Hang tag?
a hang tag and advising them that they were there, and if they need to get in or they need to verify the information, asking you to call to make an appointment.
Okay, so, and you don't have to let the data collector inside, but it could be helpful to you to make sure that that information is accurate. I believe that they did say they would do Saturday appointments upon request?
Yes.
Okay. And what happens once the data's collected? Does the property owner get to review what's been collected, and then what happens from there?
The next step, and that would be to everybody, every parcel in the town of Ossining will receive a letter, which we call it a data mailer. On one side, it has a letter explaining what is it that we're doing, the reappraisal. On the other side, we'll have the information on your property, including a photo, the details, and what we're asking you is to verify that the information is accurate. So if you would please review the information, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage,
Cross out if there's a
and if
change
there
that
is
you need to make?
any discrepancies, cross it out, correct it,
Okay,
sign it, and then send it back to us. You can either fax it, you can email it, or you can drop it off in our office. If all of the information is correct, which will be the case with the majority of the parcels, we ask you just to sign it and send it to us.
okay. And if you don't get one back, what happens? You assume it's correct?
If we don't get one back, we assume, of course, that the information is correct.
Okay,
Of course, we like to get as many back as possible, so that we get a better sense as to whether everybody got their mail or there's an issue with the mail delivery, etc. This is the same procedure that was utilized in 2014 through 16, where the data mailer to verify the information that we gather. Remember, this is the information we're going to use to put a value on your property.
Right.
So accuracy is very, very important.
so that brings me to the next question. So what happens after you receive back all the data mailers, and when are people expecting to get this? I think that's on the schedule,
This
right?
process that we have just explained up until now is during the month of September and October.
Okay,
We're
The data
getting the
collection.
data, updating the data, verifying the data, and then we're going to go into the evaluation and analysis process. In order to.
so these mailers are going out in the next month,
Yes.
September to October?
Yes.
Okay.
This will be
2019.
going in within the next 6 weeks.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
And the reason for that is that we have to gather all the data, then do the analysis, come up with the new values, and send you a new determination of value during the month of March in 2020.
okay. So in March 2020, every property owner is going to get another piece of mail where it says, this is what we've determined the value of your property is.
Yes.
And-
Every property owner will get that determination of value,
Okay,
along with instruction that if they do not agree with that determination of value, and they would like to have an informal meeting with a Tyler representative to discuss the value. Same process that we went through in 2015-16. We will have plenty of time to listen to you. What's your reasoning for you to think that the value is not correct, or to show us that maybe the determination that we have done is erroneous for whatever reason. And we call that the informal hearings, where you will have the opportunity to meet with a Tyler representative.
so even though they're informal, it's helpful if you come prepared to those meetings with any evidence that you believe would indicate that the value that was not correct, right? So you want to,
Absolutely, yes. If you
comparable
have
sales
information,
data.
For example, a recent appraisal report that you had done for a refinance, or you purchased the house recently and you have an appraisal report, or if you have sales, comparable sales that shows that would be proof for a different determination of value. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so, so we are up to, what if I disagree with the new value, and so far, the values come out, they went in, they spoke to Tyler, and the value is, still hasn't changed. What happens next? What does
So
property owner get to do?
Up until now, the meeting with Tyler we refer to as an informal meeting because this is prior to us publishing the tentative roll. The tentative roll for 2020 will be published on June 1st. And at that point, then everybody will have available to them the administrative review process as prescribed by law to file a grievance and seek review by the Board of Assessment Review as we do every year. And grievance day will be June 16, Tuesday, June 16, which is always the third Tuesday in June. And at that point, the review of value will be performed by the Board of Assessment Review. Again, you must submit proof of value, and the board will make a determination. After that, if the board makes a determination and you're still not satisfied, of course, you can seek judicial review by filing a small claim with the courts and going through the process of a small claim.
Okay, so there's a whole lot of options for
Yes.
people if they're not happy. Okay, so we talked about which properties would be reviewed. We talked a little bit about the process, who's going to get visited, how does it work, how do you complain if you don't like what the value is or you don't agree with some of the data, how do you share that some of the data is incorrect? What about commercial properties? How do those play into this equation?
Commercial property owners is slightly different. As you know, commercial properties are valued based on the income approach, and as we did the last time around, we will send a letter, this particular letter, to commercial property owners, asking them to please provide us with their income and expense information,
Okay.
so that we can use actual figures to come up with a new value. The letter basically points you to our website where this form, if you don't have your own income and expense, which most likely will be provided by your accountant, you can go to the website and fill in this PDF
Okay.
form and provide us with the information. Most property owners, commercial property owners, already have a profit and loss or a income and expense report, and many already do provide it to me
Okay.
every year. So basically, we are trying to review. Instructions are here. And by the way, all of this information will be posted on the town's website.
Okay. So one of the other things that I want to just talk briefly about is the cost for this project is about, I think, a fifth of the total cost it was for the full reappraisal for the first time around, because there were so many more pieces of it at that point, and now that we have so many of those pieces in place, and we're looking at a much smaller impact going to homes and properties to take a look at what there really is there. It's a much reduced cost. We're paying for it because we didn't, using the money that was borrowed for the capital expenditures for the last time around, because we had some money left over. And I think that the good news also is that this has saved taxpayers' money through the grievance process. Usually, especially commercial properties, often grieve and through the tax certiorari process. And we know that the numbers are much reduced
Yes.
of when they get a decision or we negotiate a settlement, that we're able to not meet them as far to their end as has been in the past. And usually we come up with a compromise that's much closer to what the values were, because we know that we're really at 100% value and we're able to defend that in court.
Yes.
Right?
When one of the reasons why the reassessment was done and it was necessary was because of the very large refunds to commercial property owners that were being paid out by the taxing jurisdictions due to the inaccurate and incorrect assessments. We did an analysis of the 3 years prior to the assessment, looking at the refunds 3 years prior to the reassessment, which would be 12, 13, 14, and 15, and then these last 3 years after the reassessment, and the reductions in refunds. And this is, I did not get a report from some of the taxing jurisdictions, but the reduction was in refunds, comparing the 3 years before to the 3 years after, was like $6 million.
Right.
So the cost of the original reassessment and the cost every year to maintain it is more than
worth it.
Well worth it.
Yes.
And of course, what happens is that while we will continue to have certiorari cases for commercials and small claims for residential, the amounts of the difference between what they're asking and what they're getting is a lot less.
Right.
Because of course, market value, the assessment roll is more accurate and is more is closer to market value and is more defensible.
Right.
Yes.
So that also brings us to maybe the elephant in the room. One of the big questions that had come up as part of the reappraisal process last time around was that it opened the door for the town to adopt the homestead, non-homestead option, which would allow separate classes and separate rates of properties to be determined. So it would separate residential and commercial and allow the town to set two different rates. And by doing so, the condominiums would be reclassified as residential and not how they are currently assessed, which is as commercial properties. And that was something that we, as a town board in 2016, had an option to consider adopting and chose not to do so. We got some pushback and chose to undertake a study, which we did and was completed in February 2019. We talked to the public about the study, and basically the study concluded that there was no good option. And at the time, we decided that it was not in the town's best interest to adopt the homestead option. Again, even though the board, as it was then constituted, was of 5 board members who were all single-family homeowners and had something to gain in the process in the short term, but we felt that in the long term it would have done more harm than good. One of the reasons that communities choose to adopt homestead is when there's a big shift during a reappraisal process from commercial to residential, and it's a way of equalizing that and making it easier and more palatable for the residential properties. We did not see a very large shift from commercial to residential, and so that was another reason that we didn't think that it made sense to do so. And we also felt that there was we have so many condominium properties that we felt that it was going to disrupt the market for condominiums to the point where it was going to end up sort of casting us back into the same position that we started in. So for all those reasons, the board, as it was then constituted, and there was a change even in the board at one point, and the secondary newly appointed or newly elected town council person also voted unanimously, we all voted unanimously not to adopt homestead, or we chose not to adopt it. It doesn't seem that there's going to be a large shift again, I don't believe, Fernando, right?
Typically, the shifts occur when there hasn't been a reassessment for a number of years, a large number of years. And the situation is that typically the commercial properties are grossly overassessed, and as a result, there is a shift of tax burden from commercial to residential. In the case of Ossining, after not having done a reassessment for 42 years approximately, there was not a significant shift, because through the certiorari process that we have been under for so many years, and so many refunds and adjustments to the roll were forcibly made through the courts, there was not a significant shift that would have justified the adoption of homestead in order to diminish that shift. Since the roll is now up to date, of course, there would be even less of a shift now.
Right. So just to put that thought to rest, it doesn't seem likely that there's any reason that the town would reconsider that at this time. And then even if the town did consider it, one of the issues that the study brought up is that each taxing jurisdiction would have had to adopt that as well. So each of the school districts, each of the villages, in addition to the town. So that doesn't seem like it's going to be something new or there will be any change at the next time around. And I think that's pretty much it. Unless there's anything else that you want to add, I just want to steer people to where they can get more information. Many of the FAQs, the frequently asked questions we talked about, are available on the data mailer that will be going out to properties that are going to be visited by a data collector from Tyler Technologies. It's also going to be available on our website at townofossining.com, and we're probably going to have a page called 2020 Reappraisal Project that will be easy to find, and we'll have the information there as well. Also,
I just wanted to point out that the data mailer that we're going to send, asking you to review the information for accuracy, will also include a definition glossary to explain some of the abbreviations and terms on the document. But of course, if you have any questions, just give us a call in our office, and any of my staff will be able to answer the question.
do you want to tell them the phone number?
Yes, the assessor's office is 914-762-8274.
And we look forward to working with everybody. Please do call if you have any questions, or you can email or go online to find out more information. Thank you very much.